Michael King Jr. was born on January 15th, 1929. When he was 5 years old, his father went to the Baptist World Convention, a multinational tour, and on that trip, he learned about a man named Martin Luther. So enthralled was he with the life and work and legacy of Martin Luther that when he came back home to Atlanta, Georgia, he changed his own name to Martin Luther King Sr., and he changed Michael's name to Martin Luther King Jr. Martin was an exceptionally bright child, and he enrolled in Morehouse College at 15. Fast forward a decade, it is now 1955, and just like that, the Montgomery bus boycott is over. And to be perfectly clear, it went on for longer than a year. So it was over, but it wasn't over. And at this success, several leaders in the African American community accurately surmised that it was the proper time to begin the campaign to desegregate communities all over America. So on February 15th, 1957, after the foundations of the Southern Christian Leadership Conference were made and in place, Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., its first leader, would begin to make the case. The conference took as its charge marching orders, direct action in the way of nonviolent protests as a way of exposing and thus ending the mistreatment of blacks in this country. First rolled out in Albany, Georgia, and with little to no national attention or no significant gains made, it was considered by some a failure. But it wasn't over. In Birmingham, Alabama, the brutal response of Bull Connor with police dogs and fire hoses would bring worldwide attention to this struggle. And from inside a cell, inside a jail in Birmingham, Reverend Dr. King would defend his position and presence with these words: "I have been invited here, first by the more than 80 affiliated organizations of the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, but moreover, by the situation itself." At the question of timeliness, Reverend Dr. King simply said, "There's never been a direct action campaign that was well timed in the view of those for whom suffering is not their portion. The reality is, wait has almost always meant never, and justice too long delayed is justice denied. We have had 300 years of wait." Not long afterward, Birmingham businesses would desegregate. And so that was over. But it wasn't over. He walked the fine line between doing enough to fuel a movement and yet not too much to fuel a backlash. Walking the thin line between moving too fast for our elders and not fast enough for our youth, this would prove an inescapable weight on his shoulders. When he spoke, though, he had a way of bringing people together, encouraging people to be a part of the struggle, which in some cases was not theirs. Up together, down together is the mindset he said we must have, because the only thing we have to fear is fear. Some thought the marches were too much. Others thought they were not enough. Reverend Dr. King bared his soul at one point and said, I'm tired of marching. I'm tired of marching for something that should have been mine at birth." And then from a bus station, which still stands on New York Avenue in Washington, D.C., a group of both white and black devotees of nonviolence and desegregation boarded buses, later to be referred to as the Freedom Riders. Among these motivated and dedicated youths was none other than the late Honorable John Lewis. Loaded up they did. Their agenda was not hid. Bound for New Orleans, they landed in Mississippi jail cells, but not before they were met by riots and mobs hurling Molotov cocktails. And so at his acceptance speech for the Nobel Prize, Reverend Dr. King proclaimed, I accept this award today with an abiding faith in America and an audacious faith in the future of mankind. I believe that unarmed truth and unconditional love will have the final word in reality. This is why right, temporarily defeated, is still stronger than evil triumphant. I believe that there is hope for a brighter tomorrow. I believe that wounded justice lying prostrate on blood-flowing streets of our nations can be lifted from the dust of shame to reign supreme upon the children of men. I have the audacity to believe that peoples everywhere can have 3 meals a day for their bodies, education and culture for their minds, dignity, equality, and freedom for their spirits. I believe that what self-centered men have torn down, other men-centered can build up. And with that, he signaled it wasn't over. Now, with the strides being made on both local and regional levels, comes the call for a national statement. A march upon the Capitol. A march to underscore the condition of the underserved and underrepresented. A march for jobs and equality. A statement to be made. A statement about a check written that is still yet to be paid. So on the storied marble steps of the National Mall, once again from another voice with the call, nay, demand for freedom and justice once again be heard, we can hear the dreamer and we can hear his words. You have been the veterans of creative suffering, he said. Continue to work with the faith that unearned suffering is redemptive. We will lower our heads, but not as in defeat, but as a bull and a ram that intends to defend what is theirs. These were the words that emanated from the Lincoln Memorial stairs. Go back, he said. Go back to Alabama. Go back, he said. Go back to Georgia. Go back, he said. Go back to Mississippi. Go back to the slums and ghettos of our northern cities and let us not wallow in despair. It is also right, fitting, and proper to note nary a skirmish nor melee, and certainly no riots were seen there. And then in the end, this dreamer and his dream. What becomes of a dreamer's dream? Is it still in view? Can it still be seen? Yes, it can, for it is enshrined. And in the end, it is the truth that we hold self-evident that should apply to all men. That perhaps it is not achieved simply means there's still work to do. There's work for me, and yes, there's work for you. There's still marches to be led and hungry, starved, freedom causes to be fed. There's still promises to keep, for the progress that we have made did not come cheap. After all, we stand in the land of opportunity, with a lady who beckons all to come who would yearn to be free, her lamp held high to show the way to the golden door, with words that welcome all, and it should not matter from what shore. Though they be great or though they be small, our decree remains unchanged. There shall be liberty and justice for all. And so we must, in the immutable words of Reverend Dr. King, we should realize we have too much to lose. We must learn to live together or we will surely perish as fools. We must remember that unity does not necessarily mean uniformity. We must remember that the antithesis of unity is hate. And the unchecked cancer of hate corrodes and destroys all. Where love will lift you up, hate will make you fall. So what is love? And what is it worth? And for it, what are you willing to give? For when there is nothing for which a man would die, that man might not be fit to live. And if a man happens to be 25 or 35, like Reverend Dr. King was, and some great truth stands before the door of his life, some opportunity to right that which is wrong, some opportunity to stand up for justice. These are Reverend Dr. King's words. But he's afraid. He's afraid that his house will be bombed. He's afraid that he won't be able to provide for his family and for his living. He's afraid that he will fall victim to some violent, hateful organization. He may go on and live until he's 80. But he's just as dead at 35 as he would have been at 80. And the cessation of breathing in his lungs is merely the belated announcement of an earlier death of the spirit. That man died a long time ago. Because a man dies when he refuses to stand up for justice. A man dies when he refuses to stand up for that which is right. A man dies when he refuses to stand up for truth. So there are only two options. Stand up no matter what the cost, or lie down and be counted with the lost. Lest we end these journeys, Nate's words now, lying on our backs, staring into eternity, realizing that we are but a shell of who and what we were originally intended to be. And so, at a motel, not unlike the hundreds he'd stayed in before, someone decided that Reverend Dr. King should breathe no more. Took an instant for the round to find its way and hit his mark. But a society sweeping change, a ferocious fire erupted, and that round provided the spark. See, because when you cannot kill the dream, killing the dreamer will do. But the fire rages on, and that's never been more true. Martin, I don't know why you had to die the way that you did. But I do know that if I strive and press on, the dream stays alive. Honoring your life, we seek to remember. Honoring your legacy, we vow never to forget. Continuing to serve, we hope to be worthy of the sacrifice you made and the destiny you met. And so on this day, I proclaim in closure, Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. had a dream, and it ain't over.